my goodness, of course, as soon as I hit live, there's like this crazy wind blowing through. So hopefully you can see me okay. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today we're talking all about taking action. If you've been here for the first couple of days, welcome back. If not, there are 2 other videos, one on mindset, one on strategy, that I can link below. But let's go ahead and dive in. If you're here, tell me hi, say hi. I'd love to see that you're here. If you're watching the replay, also, I'd love to hear that you're here as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. So you're working through your mindset and you're sticking to a solid strategy that really feels good for you. But if you are spending your time planning and not doing, if you fall into that category, then you definitely want to be here. Today we're talking all about taking imperfect action. And now there's like a lawnmower guy behind me. Gotta love having quarantine, but hopefully you guys can hear me. We're just gonna roll with it. So regarding imperfect action, there is a quote by an unknown author that says, oh, hey girl, hey Sabine, how are you? Thanks for being here. Can you hear me okay with the lawnmower behind me? Was not expecting that, but there's a quote by an unknown author, and it says, the distance between your dreams and your reality is called action. Let me say that one more time. The distance between your dreams and reality, that missing piece, is called action. So again, this pulls into what, hey Nadine, hey girl, thank you for being here. This pulls into what we've been talking about for the past couple of days. Working on our mindsets, sticking with the strategy, and taking action are really imperative for success. And again, just as mentioned in the past couple of days, these can be an evolving process. That's totally fine. We're going to constantly be working on our mindsets. Things are going to pop up that are going to be roadblocks that we have to overcome, we have to work through, we have to deal with. That's just part of it. It happens. And we are going to be refining our strategies over time to find the best fit for us and the best way to serve our clients through those strategies. So quick reminder, if you missed yesterday, I'm not saying jump from strategy to strategy. Man, that wind is nuts. I just mean that over time, you're going to find a strategy that produces faster, more efficient, and more tangible results for you as well as your clients. All right, so we are doing our mindset work. We know our strategy and we are committed to sticking with it. If there is still a gap, then I want you to take a good, hard look right now if you are following through. So let's pull some examples for that. Let's say your strategy is showing up on Instagram and you are committed to posting twice per week and engaging for maybe a half an hour every day, Monday through Friday, right? Are you doing that? That's what I mean by this. If your strategy is maybe a new podcast and you're committed to launching a new episode, let's say once per week, telling your community about it via social media once per week, and you're committed to reaching out to, say, 3 potential guests each week. Are you doing that? Again, our strategies are all going to look different, but I really want you to take a good, hard look at what your strategy is right now, and if you are actually legitimately following through. Now, this is not something that you have to say out loud. It's not something you have to type in the chat box or, tell your friend or whatever. But deep down, if the answer to that question is not a resounding yes, then we need to be working on our implementation and essentially taking action. So this can be really, really, really difficult. And if you're watching this and you struggle with that, you know how hard it can be firsthand. But one light at the end of the tunnel is it really will get easier over time and with the more practice that you get. So stop waiting for perfection before you take action. And I know that's really, really hard for my perfectionists out there. I fall under that as well. But here's the paradox of that. Nothing will ever be perfect, ever. And truth be told, if you wait until something is perfect or to put yourself out there or do the thing, whatever that is, then you have waited far, far too long. So how can we actually bridge that gap? How can we actually take action when we are so scared that we want to freaking puke? 3 things. Decide, number 1. Number 2, actually commit to it. And number 3, practice. And then we're just going to rinse and repeat. Again, decide, commit, and practice. And by practice, what I mean by that is implement, execute, take action, insert your synonym of choice there. for me, I really like real life examples. I think it shows, lawnmower is so loud, sorry. I think real life examples show a little bit of behind the scenes, and they help show that even people who you may look up to, or business owners who are, they're running maybe 7-figure businesses, they still had to start somewhere, and they still had to deal with these same exact challenges that you may be facing right now. So let me give you an example from my own journey. Before I was a business coach, I was a website designer. I know some of you know that. Every single client I got on referral, which was amazing, truly. But I did not do anything with social media. I didn't do anything with videos. I didn't post. I didn't interact. I didn't do anything. All of my clients were referral based. And that business model worked for me. But then, as businesses often do, my business started shifting, and I started pivoting. And, this shift really, it started adding branding strategy, and it later incorporated business coaching, which is what I do now. But with that said, my strategy needed to pivot with that shift. So I decided to work with this business coach in June of 2018. And the point was for her to really help me get visible and work with me on my new strategy that inevitably was going to include social media, because I had never done anything with it before. So she encouraged me to get on video, which was, I can't even tell you how terrifying it was. But I decided to do this free 5-day branding challenge on my Facebook business page. And honest to goodness, to this day, I still think that was one of the hardest things and one of the most terrifying things I have ever done in business. But I decided that I was going to do it. I committed to seeing it through and actually following through with it. So then came the practice part, which was not as easy. I wrote everything out that I was going to say because I was so scared, and that did help a little bit. I keep saying but I'm thinking of going through this and looking at the sheet and then trying to look back at the camera, and it was terrifying. Anyway, long story short, it took me 6 hours to push live. It took me 6 hours to actually show up. I called my mom to help talk me down. I walked my dog. I took 2 shots of Jack Daniels because I was just a basket case. I cried. It was so freaking hard, but I did it. And the next day it was still incredibly hard, but it was a little bit easier, and so on and so forth. And that's how this process works. So my point is that growth is really uncomfortable, and putting ourselves out there can be terrifying, especially when it is in new ways and we're doing things we haven't done before. But it does get easier. You get better. You give yourself the opportunity to not only grow your own business, but to also impact the lives of those clients that you want to serve and that you ultimately want to work with. And when you first start doing this, will it be perfect? Absolutely freaking not. No. But you do learn. You do get better. You evolve. You grow. You get more comfortable over time. And honestly, if you want an example, or if you're curious, I think you can still go and see some of those videos from 2 years ago and compare them to today. There's no comparison. But just because things are easy today, or it looks a certain way, that doesn't mean there was not a whole lot of fear and a whole lot of practice overcoming that fear leading up to the present moment. And that's true of every single business owner. All right, so let's dive a little bit more into taking imperfect action. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. It sucks, it's scary, but it's necessary. And the faster that you deal with that discomfort legitimately head on, the faster you're going to be able to move past it, and the quicker that it's going to become easier, really. And sometimes we tell ourselves that we're stuck or we don't know what to do because we're afraid to just do whatever that thing is. So in this case, maybe we'll binge watch training videos, or we'll sign up for different courses, or listen to hours and hours of podcasts for days on end, whatever it is. You get my point, I think. But it's easier to feel like we're being productive than to actually face that discomfort. And when you face it and you move through it, that's when things start to shift. And I mean, it can be a really long process, but the irony of this is when you do push it off and make it take longer and, continue to stay comfortable in, where you're at, stay comfortable, I guess. it takes longer, and you still have to work through that anyway. And it always sucks working through it. So I promise it is better to just face it head on and just move through it. Another thing is perfectionism is not progress. So perfectionism is not serving you. It's not serving your clients. It's not shifting your business from an expensive hobby into a growing, thriving, sustainable business. Perfectionism is not progress, as unfortunate as that is. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, if you wait to do something until it's perfect, then you have waited too long. All right, and number 3, this is a big one. Stop making excuses. And this one actually may hit a nerve with some of you. If I'm being completely honest, it can still really trigger me when I find that I'm hiding behind whatever it is that I'm scared shitless of doing, to be honest. And there are legitimate things that we have to deal with at times that do keep us stuck. Things from our past that may pop up that we really have to work through with mindset. Not easy. If we're still putting ourselves out there, even if we're bouncing from strategy to strategy, whatever, if you are still showing up, that's not what I'm referencing here when I'm saying excuses either. What I'm referencing is just feeling stuck and allowing that to hold yourself back and not make progress. So derailing yourself, playing small, not moving forward. These are all excuses. And if you want to sign those clients, if you want to shift into actually hitting 10K months and beyond, if you want to create your business so that you can live and work from wherever, whatever it is that you deep down truly want, and whatever your reason for having this business and working with your clients, whatever that is, in order to get that, it is imperative to stop making excuses, even when it's really, really hard. And facing your fears, taking imperfect action, that doesn't mean that it has to be some huge monumental thing. And this is really going to look different for every single person. So if you have business buddies, what may be a massive step for them may be peanuts for you, and vice versa. And that's totally fine. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is taking the action that is meaningful for us and for our business and takes us just a little bit closer to our goal. And that really, over time, those little steps, they add up so much. So I mentioned yesterday that I used to struggle publishing blog posts, and I got really, really worked up about it. Hitting publish on the darn thing at that moment in time was progress. It was really hard, but I pushed myself and I did it, and that was progress. And maybe you struggle with reaching out to someone to be on your podcast. Maybe you struggle sharing your story in Facebook groups. Maybe you find it difficult to share your face, whatever it is. Maybe you get worked up about sending an email to your list. I mean, the examples are infinite. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you decide what it is that you want, and you are committed to taking those steps, even if they're baby steps. You take those steps forward in order to achieve that goal. And in order to do that, you must practice. You must take action, and teeny tiny baby steps absolutely count. They are still progress, and they add up substantially over time. All right, so let's talk about a couple of ways we can get out of our own way in order to take imperfect action. I don't know if you see, there's like stuff blowing. Anyway, if you're feeling overwhelmed, okay, well, let me go ahead and shift over to Nadine's question for you. What was the thing that pushed you to do the video? What I mean is, what made you finally say that now is the time to get uncomfortable? I find myself getting close to that point, but I almost always back away from doing it. Honestly, if you remember when I said it took me 6 hours to publish it, and like I called my mom, I cried, I walked Sasha, I took 2 shots of Jack Daniels to try to calm me down. Ultimately, I do really well with external accountability. So in order to help facilitate that for me, that's how I work. I had created a list, I sent emails to this list, and I committed to actually showing up. Now, I didn't have times, I didn't have specific deadlines, but I said, this is starting on Monday, and it's going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And having that responsibility and commitment and external accountability, even if nobody cared and even if nobody watched, that helped me. Now, this is different for every single person. Some people do really, really well, if they say they're going to do it on their own, like they hold to it. Other people, if you've heard of Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies, there's a 4 tendencies quiz. It's essentially 4 different tendencies that you may fall under. So maybe if you tell someone else that you're going to do something, you're going to do it. If you want to do it for you, you're going to do it for you. So different people do things differently. So I think it does help to know which category you fall under and try to figure out a way to work with that. Now, at the end of the day, is it better and more beneficial if you say, you know what, I'm going to do this and I'm going to follow through? Absolutely. But sometimes it is really, really difficult. So, Nadine, do you know what you are? Do you know how you work best? Do you work best with external accountability, or that may be good for you? I'm not sure if you've heard of this before, but I can send you a link or add this to the video. That's really, really helpful to kind of know what your personality is, what your tendencies are. That definitely helped me. But ultimately, whichever category you fall under, it's going to be committing to it and deciding. And it doesn't have to be some big monumental thing. But with the video, that external accountability really, really is what pushed me. And honestly, I'm really, really grateful that I did that now, because I do go back and I'm really proud of myself for back then, because that was so, so hard. And I don't know why, like a 5-day video series was so terrifying for me, but it was so terrifying. You're an obliger. Okay, obliger is when I think that's where you have the external accountability. That's what I am as well. So something that you could do is tell someone that you're going to do this and follow through, and work with someone to help keep you accountable. Also, I find that it does help with your audience. So Nadine, I know that you've got like your Instagram posts and stuff. Is there anything particularly that you're struggling with right now, as far as, you said I find myself getting close to that point, but I'm almost always backing away from doing it. Do you have a specific example? And maybe we can talk through that. Feel free to let me know in the chat box, and I'll circle back to it. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about a couple of ways that we can get out of our way to take imperfect action. And Nadine, this may help you as well. If you are feeling overwhelmed with whatever that is, posting on Instagram, making a video, whatever it is, you can try to take a step back and really think it through. And for me, let's go back to the blog posts. If I post, let's just do several examples. If I post this blog post, if I post a picture of myself on social media, if I do this live video, show my face on Instagram, perfect. Okay, great. Let's work through this now. Nadine, if you show your face on Instagram, all right, let's take a step back and really think it through. If I show my face on Instagram, what is the worst thing that can happen? Truly, honestly. And you can feel free to put that in the chat box or just answer it to yourself. But what is the worst thing that can happen? Honest to goodness. For me, for example, the worst thing that could have happened on my blog post or on my video was that someone would have said something mean. I also struggled a lot with worrying about what other people thought, and people from maybe my past, who I grew up with, whatever, finding it and being hateful and like making me feel like crap. And, there's a lot of mindset stuff that goes into that. But at the end of the day, I was worried about what people would think, and I was worried that someone would be mean. So what were the chances of that actually happening? Maybe 1 in a million, maybe. Really? Because realistically speaking, usually people are very supportive. Usually, not always, but especially when you're smaller, usually people are supportive. But let's go and say, all right, what if somebody was mean? What if someone was hateful and said really just awful stuff? First of all, that's on you, and that's not on you. That's on them. I'm sorry, that is not on you. That is on them. And it's really about being judged and all the things you said. Yeah, absolutely. It's judgment, fear of being judged, and fear of what people are going to think. But let's just keep working through this. Like, if someone not getting support, if someone is judging you, and if someone is hateful to you, and if someone is mean to you, chances are that that's not going to happen. But if that does actually happen, in the scheme of things, it is difficult. But is it really that bad? And is the possibility of maybe one person in a million really worth not showing up? It's not. Right now it may feel difficult getting to that point, but take a step back and really, really dig deep on that, because what we think could be the worst thing to happen usually is not that horrible. And even if that horrible thing did happen, it's usually not as bad as we are playing up in our minds. Our minds are very, very good at embellishing and making things seem so much worse. And I'm not mitigating that if someone is mean and if someone is, hurtful, that sucks. It really sucks. But at the end of the day, honest to goodness, it is on them, and it has nothing to do with you. It does not reflect anything of your skill, you showing up, you sharing your voice, you sharing your message. It has nothing to do with you. It doesn't. And there are trolls, which sucks, but it doesn't have anything to do with you. Let me shift on over. I don't even need to feel uncomfortable to procrastinate doing what I plan to do and show up. Or maybe I'm just ignoring the uncomfortable feeling. Okay, Sabine, can you dive a little bit more into that? You don't need to feel uncomfortable to procrastinate. Do you mean that it's just easier to procrastinate than to put yourself out there? Or, I know you and I have talked about this before. Sabine and I have talked about this before. Sometimes what I did when I first started my business was I would do all the things, and I would feel like I needed to do all of the things. But when I actually had time to sit down and do all the things, I would play on Facebook, or I would check my email, or I would get on YouTube or whatever. And then I would go to dinner with my mom and dad or a friend or whomever. And when I was at dinner, I didn't want to be at dinner because I was thinking about all the things that I needed to do. And I just kept procrastinating when I was actually supposed to be working. And I think a lot of that, at the end of the day, it really does boil down to feeling uncomfortable. Even if we don't realize it, there's a reason that we're procrastinating. There is a reason that we are not showing up. There's a reason that we're not doing something. And it's just figuring out what that is. And it could be something that you're not even realizing at the moment, Sabine. Like it could be that you kind of like what Nadine was talking about, fear of being judged or fear of failure. And it's a lot easier to say we're doing something and kind of sort of go towards it instead of going at it full speed ahead. But sometimes when we're scared to go at it full speed ahead, we're scared of failure, and it's easier to say, oh, well, I tried this, because we tried a tiny little bit. I tried this, but it wasn't successful. And in reality, we didn't. We may have taken those baby steps, but it can be easier to procrastinate because we don't feel like it's perfect. We don't feel like it's good enough. We don't feel like we're good enough. We're scared that someone's going to be mean to us. We're scared of looking like an idiot, whatever it is. Productive procrastination. I do that too. Yes, I so did that for years. I did that. And what will ultimately help get you out of that is just taking those baby steps. And for you too, right now, if you struggle with productive procrastination, as we're calling it, something that you can do is just try to do one thing. And again, this goes into mindset, this goes into your strategy, but go back to what your strategy is. So Nadine, I know you're on Instagram. Sabine, I know you are as well. But let's say that your strategy is to post twice a week on Instagram, okay? And in one of those posts, you want to show your face, okay? Instead of actually doing that, instead of writing the content for your posts, creating the graphics, and interacting with your audience, because those are the three big things. Instead, you get down the rabbit hole and you start reading an influencer's posts, or you start getting on YouTube to see how you can grow your Instagram, or you're doing these things that maybe even feel like they're productive, but in reality, they're just wasting time. So what you can do is legitimately try to do one thing, one teeny tiny thing. If that is researching hashtags, and then you take those hashtags and put it on your next post that you actually put on your post, and then post it. If that's too much, if that's overwhelming, and it's just creating content for whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. The point is, it's taking that action and actually channeling that procrastination into something that is productive and ultimately helps you grow your business, if that makes sense. And something else that we can do with that is to just make a decision. Any decision. If we're feeling stuck, if we're feeling not good enough, if we're freezing because we don't know where to start or what to do, making any decision can help keep that ball going in the right direction. So small progress can really help us get inspired. Now, again, let's say we're doing a blog post. And part of the strategy is to post once a week, or Instagram, and part of the strategy is to post once a week, whatever it is. All right, so you're sitting at your computer and you're ready to bust out awesome content for your blog post or for your Instagram post or whatever it is, any kind of post, let's just say post. And you're ready, like you've decided, you are committed, you are taking action. But all you see in front of you is a cursor blinking back at you on a blank page. That's it. That can be super overwhelming and super frustrating, honestly. Write a sentence. Start writing down words that come to mind. If you're talking about how to do Adobe Illustrator, Nadine, I don't know if you do any of that. Or Sabine, if you're talking about how to make vegan brownies, or whatever it is, write the title. Write, blah, 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 like making vegan brownies or doing Adobe InDesign or whatever it was that I said. And just start to get that ball moving. And really anything, like small bits of progress can really help us become inspired and take that further action. So if you're struggling with doing nothing, or you're struggling with this productive procrastination, just take one tiny decision and just run with it. Do you think it helps to batch work instead of jumping from task to task in a day? Great question. I do think that it helps with batch work, especially depending on what it is. Like content creation is a really, really good one for batch work. Maybe even for doing some of your images, that would be good for batch work. I think a lot of that does depend on the person. Some people do really, really well with like chunks of time. Some people do really well with writing when they're inspired. But the thing that I would say, if you are batching, be focused on what you're doing. And if you are using that as an excuse to not, I'm not inspired, so I'm just going to batch work later, and you're using that as an excuse to kind of push it off, try to flip that and try to switch that and just be focused on what you're doing. Be focused on getting this content out. And I'm not talking about, it has to be perfect. Like you can always create it, and you can always tweak it later if you want. Or if it's not a great fit for that day and you come back to it, you've got ideas, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you're batching, just make sure that you're not using this chunk of time, or however you're doing this. If you batch content on Mondays, if you don't feel good, if you don't feel like showing up, if you don't feel like doing it, then you use that as an excuse to say, oh, well, actually, no, I can just push this off. Or no, actually, I'll just do this for an hour on Tuesday and an hour on Wednesday. Just make sure that whatever you're doing, you're actually following through with it. And I think oftentimes when we don't feel like showing up and when it's really, really tough, just like the blinking cursor on the page, just starting and making those small decisions and having that progress take us forward can really, really help inspire us. And we feel better when we start doing it. We see that we're making progress. It's easier to keep things flowing. It's easier to keep going. What about you? What do you usually resonate with? Do you tend to do batch work? Do you tend to do different tasks? I do. There is one. Well, it's like this study, and I can't remember the statistics on it, but it's essentially talking about how, in our day and age, we're doing like a million things at once. We multitask. So we're on Facebook, and we're working, and we're also writing this blog post, and we switch from like Facebook to checking our email to writing this blog post. Facebook, checking our email, writing this blog post. Not in that order, but my point is, for every task that you add to multitask, it takes your brain a minute to actually refocus on that particular task. So batching can be really, really beneficial for staying focused and getting the content out, or whatever it is that you're batching, because our brains have a hard time of actually doing this one thing and then shifting over here. And we lose in that shift from here to here, we lose 1 second per thing. But over the course of a day, that can be hours. I find myself scheduling multiple tasks in a day that are different. And I notice that I will pick the ones that I want to do. And in the end, I don't end up working on all the tasks, especially the important ones. Ooh, been there, done that. That is okay. A lot of people struggle with that. Set your priorities. Set your priorities. So with that, it would be, so if some of your tasks are creating content, like written content, creating graphics, and I'm just pulling on your Instagram, and updating your website. All right, let's say those are your 3 tasks in a day. Well, the big things for you right now may be growing your audience. And let's add interacting with your audience. So those big 4. Okay, so right now maybe you have a tendency to go and you update your website. And I don't know what it is that you tend to gravitate towards, but it can be nice to see a list and like check things off the list. But if you're going on updating your website when you're maybe struggling to bring in clients, or you're having a hard time growing your audience, or whatever it is, if you're not working on those income generating activities, and even if that doesn't mean that like money is rolling in right now, essentially this is what is going to help pave the way for you to shift this into a whatever you see as a sustainable business. So doing things that are necessary but not really necessary. So like your website is important. I know you have a lot of your artwork there. I have a spider that just landed on my leg. Sorry. That's not the most important thing right now. So the most important thing right now, depending on what you're looking to do, let's say is growing your audience, increasing your reach, and actually making those connections. Your website is just kind of something on the side. So in order to still hit both of those, that's fine. You can still do all of those things, but prioritize. So work on those income generating activities first, whether that's engaging, whether that's creating content, whatever that is that looks like for your strategy. And I don't know if you've ever seen this and I stink at explaining things. I picture it in my head, but it's like this square. And in each square, it's like high importance, high urgency, low importance, low urgency, low importance. And then anyway, it's like these 4 things. Basically, I will avoid the uncomfortable tasks, of course. So you can kind of try to compartmentalize these and break them down like, all right, is this something that is important? Is this something that is going to help move my business forward like today? Is working on this today going to help move my business forward? And try to figure those out, delegate, eliminate. I will find this and I will add it in the comments because it is really, really helpful. But essentially prioritize. And then once you do that, something else that can be really, really helpful is celebrate, or even plan how you're going to celebrate. Like, it's easy to get caught up in all that we still have to do and just be overwhelmed instead of actually acknowledging everything that we've already done or how far that we have already come already. So something that I used to do when I was a web designer was I would buy a bottle of champagne and I would literally crack that bad boy open when I would sign a client in my highest package. And for me, I previously had a tendency to just plow through and not recognize that there's so much to be thankful for and there's so much to celebrate just with as far as I've come. And you guys can probably, resonate with this as well. Like, it's very easy to just plow through and feel like, oh my God, I still have so much stuff to do, and not look at how far we've already come. So stopping and celebrating really, really helped me recognize that. And I think it will for you as well. And it doesn't have to be extreme. It can be as simple as getting chocolate when you post on Instagram. It can be taking a bubble bath when you send a client proposal. It's about what feels good for you, and acknowledging that you are grateful that you pushed yourself out of your comfort zone, and you're recognizing that you showed up and you are moving the needle forward. So this can also be a really big motivator when you're just feeling just like blah and not wanting to do whatever the thing is. So you can kind of hype yourself up by flipping it. For example, well, if I just go ahead and publish this post, I can have chocolate and I can take the rest of the day off, or whatever that looks like for you. Finally, we talked a little bit about this, but if you are struggling to take action, accountability will likely be a game changer for you. And this can be in the form of mastermind, this can be a friend, a business group, a business coach. Some people do very, very well at setting goals, sticking to them, and following through. And other people, myself included, really, really struggle with this and really need some help holding their butts accountable or need some external accountability. And, you know, if you are looking for someone to help you with accountability, you just want to make sure that they're actually doing that. They're actually holding you accountable. They're not just listening to you talk and then going on about their day. While that can be helpful to, you know, get things off of our chest and get some encouragement, which is great, it doesn't always help us actually do the thing. So if you're finding it hard to take action, if you are struggling with your mindset, or you don't know which strategy works for you, or really if you're somewhere in between, and you do need that external accountability, I would love if you scheduled a call with me. Like, we could pinpoint exactly how you can fix those things and really shift business in a way that feels good for you. I'll add a Calendly link in the comments so you can book a call if that works for you. But really, at the end of the day, taking action, just any action at all is going to move the needle forward. And being scared is okay, and it's perfectly normal. And remember that baby steps are still incredible progress. And Nadine, I want to shift back into taking action, and with thinking about what is actually going to help move the needle forward. Taking any action, I know, can be really, really difficult. And depending on how you deal with things, depending on mindset, depending on, you know, all of these host of external factors, taking those small steps, like even working on your website or whatever it is, can still really help you push the needle forward from a mindset perspective. So if that's where you're at right now, and trying to just do something versus just scrolling through Instagram, keep doing what you're doing and slowly start to shift into working on the priorities and really, really working on that mindset and trying to shift into focusing on what is going to help you grow. Because if you are taking those baby steps, and if you're not focusing on the priorities, for example, you will eventually work up there. Because right now, maybe posting on your website is difficult, but it gets easier over time. And then maybe interacting is difficult, but it gets easier over time. And then maybe you post your face and it gets easier over time. Absolutely. Like, doing it like that is feasible, completely feasible. It just takes a lot longer. And that's also why people work with other people, because it helps you fast track those and get out of your own way. But right now, if that's what you're doing and that's what is pushing you out of your comfort zone, keep doing what you're doing as long as you're taking action, because you will see results. And, you know, building a business is really, really stressful. It's challenging. Honest to goodness, it's downright terrifying. And it can sometimes feel like we are all completely alone and no one understands. But every single person here understands. Every single person here is going through the same thing. And every single person who has a successful business has overcome these obstacles. And you can too. And that goes for anyone listening today, in the future, whatever. You absolutely can too. You've got this. Just don't quit. Just keep going. Reach out to me if you need help. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any other questions, I know they take a couple of minutes to come through. Feel free to shoot any in the comment box. And I will get back to those once this is over. But I will share those links that I talked about below. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you all soon. Thanks again for being here. Bye.